And it's a great pleasure to be able to invite John Arthur up to the stage. So, John, I'm just inviting you now. John is going to tell us about some of the wonderful stuff that's going on at Edinburgh and preparing your council for a paperless process adoption. So, John, unfortunately, we won't be able to catch up in the physical space, but I'm really looking forward to this session. If you just want to share your screen before you start to introduce yourself and your presentation, and we'll just double check it's on and that your sound is good.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can hear you.
Yeah, good. So I'll just share my screen now, Andy, yeah?
Yep.
I just want to bring up my presentation if I can. I don't know, can you see that?
Not yet, mate. So you need to select the screen and then hit share down the bottom.
All right, hold on. Okay. So I should be sharing my screen now.
No, nothing yet, mate. So click on the share screen icon when the pop-up. Oh, no, that's me.
Yeah, I've done that. Pressed on it.
2 seconds, mate. I might have to do a behind the scenes. Oh,
how about that? Can you see that now?
That is perfect, mate. That's brilliant.
Okay. Right, cheers.
Obviously, we're just looking at the Remo screen at the moment.
Yeah.
So perfect, mate. If you want to get that in presentation mode, and then I will disappear and I'll come back towards the end.
Yeah, can you see that screen now?
Yes, that's perfect, mate.
Good stuff. Well, hi everybody. I think I've got 15 minutes to do this. This is our presentation that we gave to our sort of chief exec about six months ago now. You know, so it's a wee bit out of date, but I can bring you up to date anyway. But what this does is it really just explains the journey that we've been on to try and drive paperless processes throughout the council. So we spent the last 2 years putting the technology in, really setting the place up to roll out to the whole council. That's 18,000 employees over schools and all the other services. So we're going to run through a wee bit on what the strategy is, what we've achieved so far, and the team and the network coverage, what's the journey we're on, where do we want to be in, and really what's next for Edinburgh in this environment. Okay. So what was the strategy? It was really to help us fundamentally dovetail into our carbon neutral and sustainable ambitions as a council. They're at the top actually of a lot of the stuff that our councillors and the council wants to work on. So reducing things like paper usage, ink and toners and copiers, that sort of stuff, and being able to turn a lot of our transactional process, and that's letters, you know, forums, all of that sort of stuff, into an electronic environment was the way that we were going in the journey that we were on. And also using our lean and automation team, because we've got an automation team that work for us as well, that use Blue Prism. What we wanted to do was to look for opportunities again to be able to drive and reduce waste, being able to, you know, transact a lot more online where we could. And a lot of the processes were internal processes rather than external customer-facing ones, which is what Jean and Karen will probably touch on in their presentation. So where were we? Well, we're old model. This is it here. If you look at the bottom sort of right, the slide there, what we had was a very clunky sort of 1960s and 70s process where with a whole load of vans going round about the council's network, actually postmen for want of a better term for them. We were manually sorting and delivering mail, so we'd take mail into a mail centre from all round about the council, we'd frank it and send it out. And in another area, we had a print centre where we created a lot of paper forums for schools, posters, wide format stuff, and artwork and signage, as well as printing a lot of transactional mail for customers as well. So where we we're running about in vans, manually sorting and delivering mail, paper mail, lots of paper usage in multifunctional devices. We were printing a lot of letters at copiers and putting them in envelopes and, you know, sending them for franking there as well. So very labour intensive type processes in there, and a huge internal mail transportation sort of network there with about 18, 20 guys doing that at one point. And we were talking about somewhere in the region of over 1 million letters a year going through this network. This is stuff that is not transactional. This isn't your council tax and billing mails. You know, this was just general sort of mail that was going out to customers, you know, about everything from parking to housing and whatnot. So we had 2 areas, a mail centre and a print centre, and antiquated processes, and what we wanted to do was to do something about that. We also had Iron Mountain for our deep storage, where we kept a lot of our paper records, and we would call stuff out of there for, you know, FOIs and disputes or legal letters whenever we needed them. Okay, so what we'd really looked at achieving, we integrated the print and mail operations into one centre. The reason for that was really just to recognise that over time we wanted to drive the volumes of printed mail down and start to cross-train those guys and turn them into people who could scan and print, but predominantly scan a whole load of legacy letters and records from Iron Mountain, but also scan incoming mail. We deployed online media procurement portal, MyPrint, which is basically a way that anybody in the organisation can order printed material, posters, wide format, things like that from the print centre. We bought and deployed industrial scanners into a new centre where we merged our mail centre and our print centre together, and we identified a whole load of automations that we could move to automatically generate letters, system letters, rather than manually doing them. And we also looked for opportunities to do away with the letters altogether. We reduced colour printing in the machines, deployed black and white as default to all the machines in our network, with colour being a bit of a luxury, and we instigated a new copier procurement there, because what we wanted was, while we don't really want to be copying and printing stuff, we wanted new state-of-the-art machines that would let us put some more technology in there, which we're in the process of rolling out now. The procurement's complete. We've got a new supplier, which will start in January. So this here, wee bit sort of complicated, this thing, but this is our new model for it. So what we did, first thing was we merged the print and mail teams into a new bespoke facility, where we got the teams, put them in, and we now do everything from the one centre. So the advantage there is that we can take a lot of the guys who are delivering mail and driving around about and train them on scanning of inbound mail rather than sending it to people. So we put some industrial scanners in this place where all mail now comes to that depot. We then scan it on these Falcon scanners, and what we then do is we then are able to send PDF copies of these mails directly to people's inboxes, rather than truck rolling them round about the city. We've just deployed that now. The scanners themselves are from Pitney Bowes, quite intelligent things. These, what we can do with them is they actually open the letters themselves. We scan them, and then we can read what's on the letters intelligently using optical character recognition, and have a first guess at where to send the mail. It's attended by an operative who then forwards the mail on. But from the point of receipt, we then are able to track and trace those letters. We can then take copies of them, upload them onto SharePoint, and put them into our digital archiving systems. Again, we're rolling those processes out just now. So the last 2 years were about deploying the technology for this stuff. We've got it all in now, and we're making good inroads into that. So the other thing that we've done is that where we do want to print, send letters, we've now got options to basically send the letters direct from your laptop. So for example, I can send a letter to anybody that I want from a laptop now by using a widget which we've got and developed with Royal Mail and a company called CFH. So I can write a letter now and send it direct from my laptop at home. This has been a great boon for people, obviously, with home working due to COVID, and it's really helped. So we're sending up, probably now about 80 to 90% of our mail in the council. That is everybody from, everybody that's home working, as well as the people who are in offices, from health and social care through to people in schools if they want to use it, to, people who are doing, say, council tax or, other things. They can send mail when they need to, direct from their laptop. So we're probably running about this year, somewhere in the region of 800,000 letters we'll do this way, which has transformed the way that the way that we work now. So we don't need to have guys in vans going round about picking up mail to bring to a central mail depot to frank it, to put into the Royal Mail systems. This mail system that we've got as well will do mail merges. You can set it up to send 10,000 letters out at the push of a button to 10,000 customers, should you want to do that. And there's also options for sending things via email as well. So this is a sort of schematic of how we've set the thing up now. And what we're also concentrating on as well is, because we've got the labour now, we've got the guys starting to back scan the stuff that we've got in Iron Mountain and with deep storage, and the ambition is over the next 2 to 3 years to scan and create digital records of everything that we have in storage. There will always be a need for some paper storage of certain types of records. However, what we want to do is reduce the footprint of that down to a very small sort of building, rather than the 60,000 bankers boxes of records that we've currently got in deep storage at the moment. Okay, so quickly moving on. So what have we achieved today? I'm using 2019's figures because obviously 2020 with the COVID outbreak, I'm just really trying to give you a picture of where we were when we were all in the offices and what we were doing. So we've reduced the copier usage. We're reducing that year on year by about between 8 and 10%. So in 2019, we reduced the copier usage by about 7 million sheets of paper, or 10.5 million copies as a result. So even just on the paper itself, that's reams of paper, we saved about £32,000 that year on purchasing paper. And we all know that the majority of that paper's read once, for example, and then chucked in the bin or goes to recycling. So that's been a huge ongoing saving for us, and will continue to be. We reduced the amount of paper across the council. Looking at that, that's 14,000 less reams of paper. We purchased 300,000 less envelopes because we're getting Royal Mail to do it for us, and we sent 300,000 letters from desktops utilising my letters. So as I said, that's up to about 800,000 now. We've reduced the volume of mail being picked up down to about 20% of its previous total, and we started bank scanning. As I said, these bankers boxes are in the deep storage. So we've got about 1,250 of those done, and we're continuing just to work through that for the next few years. To put that into perspective, the Iron Mountain storage costs us, we're billed somewhere in the region of about £70,000 a year just to store these boxes for the council. So any inroads that we make into that reduces an ongoing bill and lets us obviously use that money for something else. Okay, we've also reduced the reliance on physical mail runs. I'm going to say that when we first started this off, we had a team of about 7 or 8 vans and about 20 employees just doing the mail processes. About a year and a half ago, we're down to 5 people doing that now, with the rest of the staff deployed onto scanning or doing some other work for us in the council now. Okay, so a whole host of names here. It was just really to show that this stuff can't be done in isolation. It needs key players from around the organisation, from communications, procurement, the business support teams that we manage, commercial managers, planning officers, and the data protection teams, and that's really up just to symbolise that the team is large and wide and varied. If you want to be doing this sort of work throughout the council, and we continue to meet every couple of weeks just to look at how we manage to reduce paper further and paper consumption in the organisation. Okay, so what's next for us? Well, we're re-engineering the corporate learning and teaching copier fleet. Site of Edinburgh Council has 1,540 photocopiers in the organisation. We hope to vastly reduce that in our next rollout, which will start in quarter 2 next year. Quarter 1 we'll be doing some audits of that. But what we definitely want to do is to use the new ways of working and the new normal that COVID's brought about with much increased uptake of home working, which we don't expect to drop that much. Certainly we won't begin back to offices and to the extent that we have in the past. So we want to be able to reduce the footprint of machines in offices. As I say, we've just industrial scanning and back scanning and the technologies that people can use from their laptop to be able to do that work. We've introduced digital mailroom assistant, which means that we can then start to, when we get any paper mail coming into the organisation, we scan it and we'll send it direct to people's mailboxes. We've rolled that out in customer and digital services at the moment, and last week and this week we're now piloting that with HR and with the councillors themselves, getting their mail this way. So they're key advocates for the change, which is great as well. And what we'll be doing over the next 3 to 6 months is starting to promote more of the paperless initiatives and the zero carbon focus that the organisation's got. So people were talking earlier on about about communications and bringing people along the journey with you. That's going to be critical to the success of these initiatives going forward. So very, very much looking to work with our communications and training teams to be able to make sure that new starters into the organisation, as well as just incumbent colleagues, get to know and use the technology that we're deploying and support them in that journey. Okay, so last but not least, just looking at our journey. When we first started this, we were over 100 million sheets of paper being fired through photocopiers and sent round about the organisation. As you can see there, going up to December 19, we'd reduced that down to probably somewhere in the order of about 60 million. And we're I say, reducing that between 8 and 10% year on year. So in the next couple of years, we hope to be down. We hope to have basically halved, if not get down to 40% of the usage that we would have had 2 years ago or 3 years ago. We're a very paper-based and paper-hungry organisation in the past, and the more organisations put stuff online, the more we introduce SharePoint, Teams, and all of these other technologies, the less we're going to waste, and obviously make it much better for the environment. We're not putting into landfill as much paper as we had in the past. And you can think of paper as a fundamental sort of acid test of how technologically able your organisation is. We're on a journey, and we hope probably in the next 2 years to almost eradicate most of the paper in the organisation, but it's a way to go, and it's a journey that we're on. And if anybody wants to reach out to us about the technology that we've deployed and how we're going about it, more than happy to share that with anybody that wants to see that. Okay, so that's my presentation done. If anybody's got any questions, happy to answer them where I can.
Thanks, mate. That's brilliant. That's really, really good. And I would thoroughly agree with you. Getting the whole team around the problem, all of the stakeholders, is so vital. So we have got some Q&A coming in here. So did the project look at the purpose for the correspondence and look at whether or not it was necessary at all?
Absolutely, yeah. As I say, the premise behind it all is we don't want to be super efficient at paper handling or reducing it. What we want to do is eradicate it. So when I mentioned the intelligent automation team that we've got, part of our bigger working group is not to produce paper or letters in that format if we can. We've now got a whole host of other channels that we're using. We've got online forums. We're building those things along with Karen and Jean and the customer services team. But absolutely, we've looked at do we need to send a letter at all? Can we do it another way? And even if we do have to send a letter, why is it 8 pages long? Why can't we make it 1 page or, re-engineer it in its format? So lucky enough to have the visibility of every sheet of paper that comes in and out the organisation, because we control the mail teams and the distribution teams, and we can see everything that's been sent out electronically as well via the Royal Mail functions.
Brilliant, mate. And we've got a session with Matt Prosser coming up, who's chief exec at Dorset. And they're on the journey to not have paper, and he refuses to take any paper. And even if someone can't do digital, he'll take a photo with his iPad. So he said, I'm just living it and breathing it. And he says he's been 18 months because it is a cultural shift. Next up, Peter, are you destroying records boxes under the retention policies as well?
Yes, when we basically we've got our data governance team that we're working with. So anything that we take out the archive areas with service levels and agreements about what we do with that. There's some documents need to be kept for forever. And there's other documents that are kept in life cycles of anywhere between 1, 2, 5 and 10 years. So anything that we do as far as destruction is concerned goes through a whole process to make sure A, that we should be destroying it, and B, if we do destroy it, we've got the appropriate records to prove what we've done with it. Ultimately, so it's very much embedded with the data governance team. And we're also investing through them on digital archiving software, which means that if we keep records in Word or PDF today, the technology may change in 50 years' time, which means that Word and PDFs are redundant. And what this technology and partners will let us do is change the media that we keep our digital records in perpetuity. To make sure that whatever we do, it doesn't end up like, for example, microfiche, which sits there and starts to degrade over time and becomes a redundant media. While it was perfectly good at its time, it's obviously had its sell-by date now. So yeah, that's very much the focus of what we're doing there.
That's brilliant. I mean, microfiche would have been cutting-edge technology when it was about.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So from Sharon, do you have a cost benefit analysis of the cost of equipment, etc., versus savings that you can share?
Yeah, we can do that. At the moment, we're saving, since we started this project, the savings come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. So, for example, we know that while we do still send letters out to people, the whole process of getting off your desk, going to a photocopier, printing a piece of paper, putting it in an envelope, putting it in a pigeonhole box, to be delivered, to be picked up and then franked and sent away. We're saving somewhere in the region of 20 to 30,000 man hours at the moment, just in that process. So as I say, the savings suite goes from everything from paper that we haven't bought, to efficiencies in processes, to turning off paper as the medium and going electronic, to scanning stuff in archive areas as well. So there are probably about 20 to 30 different areas where we save money that all contribute towards the return on investment, shall we call it. But our council are absolutely adamant that because of our zero carbon ambitions and reducing the footprint of this stuff, that we would be doing it anyway. Okay, this is something that we know makes sense to do. So we've got the support of the councillors, the politicians, everybody else to do it, and it makes sense to do. So we don't measure every penny of it, to the nth degree, because that costs money as well. But we do know that we're making inroads into a whole host of areas. But yeah, happy to share the savings that we've made and the savings that we publish back to the organisation with anybody that wants to see them.
Brilliant. So final question from David. Thanks you for the presentation, John. Really good. Are you please able to advise how the paper reduction fits into the council's overall smart city agenda / project?
Yeah, well, if you think about the paperless project's about obviously moving to digital mediums where we can, and the accessibility of that information. So part of the smart city agenda is to make it easy for our citizens and businesses to do business with us. Okay, to make it really easy, to make it intuitive to do. So we are sort of joined at the hip with all of that work that's going on, because it's a fundamental sort of acid test, isn't it? How can you say you're a smart city if you're burning a whole load of paper or storing stuff in antiquated ways? We just need ways that we can work with our colleagues to maximise the use of SharePoint, for example, let people see their own records. That will ultimately be the aim, that our citizens can go in and see anything and everything that is about them. Noble ambition, but will take years to do. But that's the journey that we're on, and what we do can't work in a silo to what the whole smart cities team are doing. So that's why we're in there and working with them. As I say, we also have the intelligent automation team who work for me as part of that process as well, and will help drive those changes.
Brilliant, mate. Thank you very much. We could open up a whole another half hour on where you're going to go with the smart city stuff. Easy. We could probably spend a day on it. So thank you very much. I don't know whether you're able to stop on for a little bit. Obviously, we've got some of your colleagues coming up next. It might be if people trigger some more questions, if you're around a little bit, that would be brilliant. But thank you very much. So I am, without further ado, going to invite Jean and Karen to turn your mic and camera on and join us up on the stage. And John, I'm just going to remove you, nothing personal. Unless, of course, Jean or Karen needed John. I'm sure you see enough of him already. So thank you very much. Up next, we are going to hear about improving customer experience through digital. So if one of you wants to share your presentation, I will stop on a second. Just to introduce Karen Hill and Jean Inglis, and we are now going to hear about customer experience at Edinburgh. So yeah, if you are brilliant, I'm seeing that screen. If you want to put it into, we're seeing the presentation mode rather than the slide itself. To be honest, it's not a major problem, but yeah, we're getting the presentation view of that rather than the presented view.
Do you want just the? Do you want Andy? Do you want just the slide itself? You don't? Do you not want it in presentation mode?
No, it's fine. Whatever's good for you. Sorry, I was just pointing it out. I didn't know that you'd seen that. That's absolutely fine in that way.
Okay, perfect.
That's brilliant. So I will leave you to introduce yourself and the project. I'll let you know if there's any problems, and I'll come back towards the end.
Fantastic.
And Andy, sorry, it's just to mention what we'll do at one point midway through is we'll swap slide decks, if that's all right, because I've got my slide deck for the second half.
Yeah, of course. Just unshare the screen and reshare it. And if you need a hand, I'll pop back up.
Thank you.
Super, that's great. Thanks everybody, and thanks for joining us all today. My name is Karen Hill, and I'm the program manager for customer transformation. I'm going to start our session out today just giving you a higher level overview of our customer excellence program around the engagement of citizens, and our customer digital enablement program is a big piece of that. And then I'm going to turn things over to my colleague Jean, who is going to take you through some of the finer detail about the journey that we have been on for the past year. So the customer digital enablement program is a big component of our customer excellence, of our a wider customer excellence strategy at the City of Edinburgh Council. Up until the start of 2019, City of Edinburgh Council had a fairly well-known CRM sitting in its back office that was used to manage our customer records coming in. That CRM, for a number of reasons, which I can get into after the session, because I think Jean and I are both going to try and stick around for a bit and answer some additional questions. But for a number of different reasons, that CRM was making it very difficult. It was very difficult with that CRM to get the basics right around our customer transactions. And for that reason, what we were seeing was a lot of customers relying on face-to-face contact with the City of Edinburgh Council, over the phone contact, not a lot of customers using our digital services and our digital transactions. And one of the reasons why they weren't doing that is because our online services were not simple, and they weren't quick for residents and businesses, we really struggled to get proactive communication to citizens through our online transactions around that CRM. And a large part of the reason for that was that there were not many line of business systems that were integrated with the CRM. So our agents were constantly having to have multiple screens up in front of them to be able to do really simple transactions. It made for a really disjointed flow of communication back to the customers, made for a really disjointed flow of information from our customers over to our services. And of course, that then resulted in just slower delivery of services. And the knock-on effect to that was that customers felt like they could get better, faster services by calling into our contact center, or going to interact with the council in a face-to-face manner. So in 2018, we started looking at replacing our CRM with a more fit for purpose solution. And one of the big things that we wanted to do with that new CRM was take back a bit of control. The council wanted to be able to have the ability to make simple changes to the CRM platform. We also wanted the ability to be able to create forms on that CRM platform and onboard additional transactions ourselves. We have an ICT delivery partner, as some of you will be aware of, and they have always owned the relationship with our CRM. And prior to the migration to our new CRM, which is Verint, in 2019, all of our requests to change the CRM had to go through our ICT provider, and then that had to go through the provider for the CRM, and then to the CRM itself. It was just really complex, really hard to make anything, really hard to get any kind of simple changes done. And there was absolutely no chance that we could create forms on our own on that platform. So in one of the big reasons for choosing Verint and making the migration from our old CRM over to Verint was to be able to have that ability to create those forms ourselves and try to shift customers to the channel that would be most efficient and appropriate for them. And we knew that for a lot of our citizens that would be a digital channel. And it was really this migration, our migration from our old CRM over to Verint was really about getting the basics right and then watching the results follow on from that. We knew that if we could make it easier for citizens to do the things that, we're all familiar with citizens wanting to do, and that's, report a misbin, report potholes, report broken streetlights, that they would, and if we could make it easy for them to do that online, that they would buy into that channel, and that the wider results that we were looking for, which is a shift away from the contact over the phone and the contact and face-to-face, would start to happen as well, and we would experience a reduction in cost to deliver those council services. But we had to get the basics right before we would be able to see those results. So the challenges, and again, I'm sure this will resonate with many of you on the call. City of Edinburgh Council is certainly not the only local authority seeing these challenges. So service issues, so inconsistent service provided by provided to customers, and so one of the things we wanted to do was to make sure that was righted, and we had a more consistent approach across all of our services. Systems and contact channels weren't integrated. City of Edinburgh Council has a number of very big, bulky line of business systems that manage the transactions in the back office. And because those aren't integrated with the CRM, it creates a bit of a nightmare for our agents and our front of house staff. Again, that gets back to having to have multiple screens pulled up to be able to do simple things on behalf of our customers. This gets us to visibility as well, no single view of transactions, and we were never going to get that unless we started integrating those line of business systems with our CRM. City of Edinburgh Council was incredibly reactive, and where we wanted to get to was a proactive stance. But the way that the systems were set up, we just weren't going to get there on our old CRM. Poor data, so we just had limited business intelligence, limited MI on service trends and where our repeat contacts were, and then budget pressures. We wanted to make sure it was difficult for us to ensure value for money and to maximize income with our old CRM, and largely that has to do with the fact that the council in-house staff had absolutely no control over it at all. We couldn't do anything ourselves with that CRM. So our outcomes were very targeted. Absolutely wanted to increase customer satisfaction first and foremost. We wanted to make services simple and service information. we wanted to make that really prevalent to customers. Wanted to focus a lot on better channel management. So once we had customers in a digital channel, we wanted to make sure that their experience was that they had an excellent experience in that channel, so that they stayed on the channel. Absolutely wanted to be more proactive with our customers and communicate better updates with them, make sure that they knew, make sure that they had more detail around the status of their requests and reports, improve productivity and efficient operations. Absolutely wanted to simplify our systems and our processes, and integrating with the CRM was a key component of this. And then consistency. Wanted to make sure that our agents and our front of house team had consistent information and knowledge at their fingertips, so that because we knew that the knock on to that was that our customers would be getting consistent information and service. So those were the really key things that we were looking to achieve through our migration to Verint. Then it wasn't just the shift to Verint that made that made up our customer excellence strategy. There were a number of other technologies that were coming into play around this. A lot of our line of business systems are quite old, and many are legacy systems, and so getting enhancements for those core systems has been key. We're still on a roadmap for that. It's largely handled by our ICT team. So getting the instances of our line of business systems up to their current service levels has been critical. And that has allowed for a number of other optimizations to happen. Website optimization. Around when we undertook the migration of our CRM, we also undertook the optimization of our website. Our website is run through Jadu, and what we were looking to do here was to make the website simpler to use, to give customers the information that they were looking for within 2 to 3 clicks, making key customer transactions easier to find. Piece of work that we've been doing recently is around web chat and chat bots, and making these 2 pieces of functionality more prevalent on different parts of our website. Enhancements to our call routing system. This is our IVR, making sure that it was very clear to customers through the IVR where the transactions that they were looking for were available. SMS functionality has been critical for us, as well as intelligent automation and social media. So all of these things have come together with our CRM migration over to Verint, and have played a critical role in getting us to the point where we can start to deliver some of our new initiatives. And again, Verint's been a key enabler in this journey. Our Verint team has been working alongside of us, hand in hand, to get us to a point where we can start churning out new initiatives and transactions for our customers, and building on the success of our phase 1 migration to the Verint platform. So as far as the things that we're looking to do into the future, certainly we want automation and self-service introduced. That's become more and more critical with COVID restrictions on customers coming into our local offices, and then just the resource that we have to be able to handle calls. So getting that self-service in place is absolutely critical for us. Active channel management to ensure choice and cost of effective service delivery. We've come away a bit from the channel shift mentality. We are not looking to force customers to transact with us digitally if that's not the right channel for them. And we absolutely realize that for some of our customers, it won't be the right channel for them, but we certainly want to make it, we certainly want that consistent experience for customers who call in and customers who transact online. And that's where Verint has been key. Our agent view on our Verint platform it largely mimics our customer-facing view. So our agents are seeing the same things on their systems that customers see when they transact online. And that's been critical to reshaping that part of the experience. We've still got some ongoing challenges to contact channels, updates, and articles. So we're just trying to improve the overall customer experience with branding and issue identification. Jean's going to get a bit more into that later, but you know, it's small things like that that we never had. They feel like small things, but they actually are really important pieces of our customer journey, and we never had any control over that before. And so being able to put that into the Verint platform and being able to provide that to our customers has been a real game changer for us. And then maximizing our online services, we've seen this over the past 10 months, certainly with COVID, certainly seeing a push to put things online that we'd never really been pushed to do before. And that's absolutely the direction we want to keep moving in. And then certainly we want to be reviewing payment channels and providing alternatives to cash. We're trying to come away from cash as much as possible, but again, we realize that online transactions are not going to be possible for everybody. It won't be a channel that you know, a small portion of our citizens are comfortable with. So it's finding an alternative way for them to pay, but not necessarily paying by cash or check. And at that, I'm going to turn things over to Jean. I'm going to stop sharing and turn things over to my colleague Jean, who is going to take you through more of a detailed run through of what we've been able to do, what we've been able to deliver with our Verint platform. Over to you, Jean.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Can everybody hear me? I think I can see the presentation. So, yeah, thank you very much. So what I want to do is just do a quick run through of what we delivered in phase 1 and also what we did as part of our COVID response as well, using the Verint system that we've got in place. So I was the project manager overseeing the phase 1 delivery and also overseeing the delivery of our COVID platform on it. So as Karen has explained, our online forms are just clearer, more consistent, they meet the accessibility regulations, so there's just a great improvement on what we had before. The customer view and the agent view is very similar. So on our agent view and our customer view, it'll tell you things like what's the delivery time scales for the bins, give you some messaging on screen, and agents see a very similar form presented a very similar way, and we can adapt the, you know, what can be seen on the different channels to suit, you know, whether it's the customer or the agent looking at the maps. The maps on our online forms were like a huge improvement to what we had before. We have assets displayed on those maps. So when we went live with our forms, we primarily went live with it was about 20 forms, and they took account of about 80% of our transactions, and they were broadly kind of mostly roads forms, or they were waste forms. So on our streetlights forms, you can see the streetlights, or on the waste forms, for instance, if it's communal bins, you can select the communal bin. And what happens is when you choose that particular asset that there's an issue with, whether the streetlight's out or the bin is overflowing, there is a communication that then goes into the CRM, and then the note of the issue passes into the back office system, and then that back office system will issue it to the operative who can go and you know deal with, or the engineer that can deal with getting the issue resolved. The other thing that was a really big benefit was the fact that our maps will display open issues. So when I see an overflowing communal bin, rather than that being reported 10 different times by 10 different people, I can see it's open on our forms, and I can choose to receive updates. So rather than that being a separate inquiry, actually we're holding it as a single inquiry on our system. And as Karen had mentioned, one of the really important things was about that communication back to the customer about their transaction. So this integration into the back office system also included tracking, you know, what was the update in the back office system, which was automatically passed through the Verint CRM, and it triggered a particular set of wording to be generated in an email that goes back out to the customer to say the engineer's going out to look at the street light, or, you know, whatever it is. So the customer's getting those kind of immediate proactive updates to let them know how their inquiry is progressing. We've got the facility to upload photographs, so particularly useful, for example, with things with potholes. You know, if the engineer at the far end can see, right, that's a picture of what the issue is. It's, you know, it's worth 1,000 words. So we've got that now on our online form, so customers can submit photos really easily. When if I pick up my mobile phone, the map centres on my location, and I can just use my mobile phone to click, take a photo, submit it on the form, and that goes straight across through our CRM. And across into the back office system to the person who's going to be dealing with that issue that's been raised. We have mentioned this a little bit already. The forms have been developed so that they can display messaging, whether it's if something, you know, wires on a streetlight is, well, that, you know, this is an emergency, and so it has to be treated in one way. And then we've also got messaging, for example, if somebody asks, and they've just asked for one a couple of weeks ago, then the system will say, well, actually, it'll take a couple of weeks for that delivery. And again, it just stops that kind of repeat reporting of things, just that really good, clear communication back to the customer. And again, as Karen's mentioned, one of the really big benefits for us is that ability to make our own forms and to amend our own forms. So depending on the change in need, we've actually now got that capability to be able to adapt what we've got and improve it. And we have so that's, you know, something from the customer's perspective, that we're getting what they need in front of them, you know, on the screen, but also from the agent's perspective. A lot of the feedback from the agents when we moved to the Verint CRM was just that, you know, it was a really easy system to use. The forms were intuitive. You know, the journey through the form, you know, with the agents, they were really pleased, and it was really simple to use, and actually needed minimum training because it was so intuitive. So that's what we delivered as part of our phase one. So it was a focus on our high transaction forms, getting them online and encouraging customers to use it. That was around about October. We went live with that last year, and as everybody knows, a short time later, we had our the COVID situation arose, and we knew straight off the council's focus was going to be on protecting our most vulnerable people, minimising risk to our colleagues, and also doing everything we can to maintain the services that we're providing within Edinburgh. And obviously, as the COVID situation evolved, we had multiple routes in for information and services to people. And we knew that we needed a way to really effectively manage that. And so there was a decision taken. What we're going to do is we're going to use our Verint CRM. We're going to create a platform that works to serve this purpose. I've got on the screen here a little bit of a timeline. I think everybody knows this, but it's interesting when you revisit it, the fact that, you know, we had our first COVID case in Scotland on the 1st of March. By the middle of March, everybody was told, you've got to go home. And then by the 3rd of April, that's when the shielding list came out. And then by the end of April, we had our platform in place for managing, you know, dealing with inquiries and requests for people who were shielding. But it just really brings into focus how short a period of time that we had to respond to this situation. What I'm going to do is just show you a little bit about the platform that we've put in place, and then once we break it afterwards, more than happy to take any questions that people have. So things to flag is this was a really, really agile approach. We were just responding as quickly as we could to get something in place that did what we needed, and we knew we need to identify really quickly what's our key requirements here, what do we need this system to do for us, and we knew it was about processing requests from the customer coming in and reaching the end point, you know, whether it's, we worked with third sector, voluntary sector, some stuff had to go to there, we had some internal services, and it was about routing the inquiries across and thinking ahead, because we didn't have all the information about what we needed. We thought, what might we need? What is the data that we might be asked for? So we had like a medication route, a befriending route for people who were isolated and vulnerable. We had critical food requests, and then we had kind of standard food requests that were routed differently depending on whether or not the person was shielding or if they were vulnerable. And I'm just going to show you some of the screens from our application and tell you a little bit about it. So we have the shielding list that was issued by the NHS was being uploaded into our system. We had an online form for the customers, which looked very similar to our agent version of the form. The first page kind of collected key bits of information just to categorise, you know, whether was the person shielding, were they vulnerable. We built the system to match those records to the shielding list. We were not going to ask these particularly vulnerable or sometimes elderly people to authenticate into our systems, you know, so it make it as easy as possible for people to transact with us. It did things like, if the person's address was different to the address that was on the shielding list, we noted it so that we could then pass that back as part of our food request update to make sure it was the correct address that was being passed over. We had a variety of different services that were available. There was information on screen about this is how long it will take for a food box. You know, is it an emergency? So that people could, you know, choose different options. And then depending on which of the options that were chosen, the system did different things. So it might issue a report to the third sector of the list of people who have asked for a food box and any dietary needs that they have. It could have been, I'll go into the next thing, is about our medication pickup. If somebody needed medication, we gather the specific information so that our in-house team could coordinate that medication delivery, and that was notifications were generated directly, you know, as soon as the form was submitted to the people who needed to respond to that. The form could identify, the Verint system could identify if this person was shielding or vulnerable, and they would direct that food request appropriately, you know, whether it went to our third sector or if it went to NHS for a food box. And then what it also did is gathered the suite of data that we needed in order to do our government reporting on the services that we had delivered as part of the COVID crisis. And the customer would then have the reference number from the Verint system that if they ever contacted us back, that we had a record of the request that they had made. So we'd routed it, brought it in centrally, and then routed it out to where it needed to go to. We are working on, for the next phase, we've built our isolate and protect form for our outbound calls, and that gives us, we've got the ability now to scale up depending on what happens, which is really good. And yeah, so what I'll do is I'm conscious that we're short on time, so I'll just hand back to Karen and then happy to take any questions that people have.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, it took me a minute to get my buttons set there. Andy, I'm conscious of time as well. We wanted to go into a bit about how COVID has changed the way that we engage with our citizens, but wondering if that is maybe best for the roundtables after, and if we want to just go into the Q&A with time.
How long is it roughly?
I'll just maybe speak for 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah, cool. Go for it.
Okay. So COVID has absolutely changed the way that we engage with our citizens, and it's going to continue the way that we engage with our citizens. We had a number of phone lines shut down over the COVID period just because we weren't able to get enough kit to contact center agents working from home to be able to do every single transaction that we had previously offered. And so while phone lines were shut down, customers were largely forced to engage with us online. Now that's something that we can start to lift a bit, but I think now that we've got customers in that channel, now that they are they're comfortable with the online experience, and they realize that it is easy and it's intuitive, and they can get those updates on their reports. We certainly want to keep them in that channel and keep going in that direction. It's going to be months and months before we're able to reopen our local offices, I would expect. So one of the things we need to continue to be able to do is to continue taking the manual and paper-based processes, and the council still has many of those processes, and getting those online where possible. Our focus right now is identifying transactions that have no other payment alternative than having somebody come into one of our buildings, and we're focusing on those as a matter of priority, just to get something available available for customers. We have a number of transactions where it's possible to make a payment over a phone, maybe not online, but over the phone. That gets us about halfway there. But we've also got a number of transactions where we've always had people walk into our council offices with cash in hand. So we absolutely want to get those. We absolutely want to get those transactions online as quickly as possible. So we're working at doing that. And then just as far as making sure that customers can see their online transactions and are comfortable with it, we no longer require customers to sign in for unauthenticated transactions. So customers can decide whether or not they want to transact anonymously, or if they want to use my account to be able to do that. That is something that's changed over that's a change that we've implemented over COVID, giving customers that flexibility and that choice about whether or not they want to sign in. Makes the system more flexible, and it makes it faster to do things like report misbins and potholes and streetlights, which not everybody wants to sign in to be able to do. So that's definitely changed how we look at that, and it's gonna I think in the future it's going to change our whole thought process about the overall sign in and authentication around our transactions, and where we continue to move with the direction that we go with that. So that's just a very quick whistle-stop tour of where we are. I realize that was a lot of information to share. Andy, happy to hand back to you for the Q&A.
Brilliant. So Esther raised the question, what customer research did you do? Maybe some before COVID, but I doubt whether you had much chance during COVID.
It's actually we didn't have to do too much bespoke customer research going into the migration of the platform over to Variant. I mean, we knew which transactions drove 80% of our volume, and it was the 2021 transactions that we chose to migrate in phase one. Those are the key transactions that drive the majority of our volume. So those were the ones that we migrated. We have a number of citizen groups that we pull into, virtual room now, but we've pulled into a room in the past whenever we've made big changes like this to gauge what the customer journey is looking like, what the customer satisfaction levels are with the changes that we're proposing. So we use those groups in phase one, but largely we knew which transactions were going to be part of that migration.
Brilliant. So David picks up, looks a great system. What are the next stages, please, in terms of phases, and ultimately what's the end goal and timelines, please?
Well, hop onto this.
It's going to go on forever, isn't it?
The end goal is single view of the customer. That is where we want to get to. We want a single view of the customer. We want seamless transactions. We want full integration with all of our line of business systems. So it's just a small Christmas list. So the next phase two is looking at integration of a number of other key transactions. We're looking to fully integrate our repairs, our council home repair process for emergencies and non-emergencies, and that's an integration with both Northgate and Total Mobile. That's a big one for us. We've been doing some work with planning and building standards teams. We're looking at full integration of our bulky uplift process. We have with the ability for customers to pay online and to fill in an online form outlining what they want to be uplifted is already in place, but customers are unable to pick the date for their uplift, which best suits them. And that creates a lot of headache in our back office with our contact center teams. And then just getting building our knowledge base on the Variant platform. We're looking at integration with our key communication systems, our social media platform, our MyTel communications platform. So, a couple little small projects. Jean, did I miss anything?
No, I think that's quite a lot, but no, that's about it.
Okay, Peter asked this one. I think you've kind of touched on this already. Did you try a more self-service option with COVID support services, e.g. fewer calls and questions?
So I think that the key thing about that one is the fact that when the COVID situation arose, essentially the whole of the contact centre, had to be sent home, and there was a piece of work to get their kit up and running. So, and also we had to prioritise other things like the vulnerable lines and, the people that were in need. And so that became the priority. So a lot of these transactions, so what essentially the contact centre did is they shut down the phone lines for waste, for these transactions, and these went all online, and actually we didn't see any comeback on it. We didn't see anybody having any issue with that. Actually, people were able to move online and transact with us, for this was 80% of the transactions. That's where it went to, and we couldn't have done that if we hadn't already put that up, that integrated system up on the on through Verint. So that was really good. And now that the phone lines have opened, actually we're seeing much fewer people phoning in now. It's almost like they made that transition, and they don't need to use the phone lines now because we've got something online that really serves the need.
I mean, who really wants to spend time on a phone line if you can get stuff done? Most of us don't choose to do that. Okay, we've probably only got time for one more. These two seem to be both related, so I might advise the person sending them probably catch up with you guys in the break now. But could you have used the Jadu CRM instead of the Verint one? Do you have to build duplicate forms in Jadu and in Verint?
So I think Jadu doesn't have the CRM functionality. So what Verint had, it was the CRM functionality for use in the contact center was a big part of what we were looking to have. And no, we don't need to do the duplicate forms because we're building our forms on Verint and they can be hosted on the Jadu website. We have some legacy forms on Jadu, and what we're doing is just prioritizing, as we're doing our pieces of work, which ones do we move across to Verint and which ones are just to stay where they are.
And just to add on to that, Jadu was one of the providers that we looked at when we were moving away from our previous CRM. And what Jadu were very clear about is that they could provide a CRM functionality, but they would bring in a third party in order to do that. And that just felt like that was similar to the CRM that we already had. It was a third party that that had to implement the CRM, and then we already had a third party as our ICT provider that we had to go through. And what we wanted a CRM provider where it was their technology, it was their kit that they had developed, and they were the subject area experts. And we needed to stop having to go through three or four different communication channels to be able to get to the people that could actually make the changes to our CRM. So that was one of the things that we liked about Verint, and that is 100% one of the things that makes the work that we've been doing in phase 1 and throughout COVID so successful. It is absolute partnership working with our Verint team. Jean and I are on the phone with them regularly. I think we both agree we probably speak to our Verint delivery partners more than we speak to people in our own households. But that's how we've been able to work in that agile way to be able to make those changes, is the fact that we've got the direct line into them, and it's their product, it's their kit, and they, we're on the phone with people who live and breathe that specific product.
Mm-hmm. Really important to have that good relationship, and we got some stuff coming up in Technology Day tomorrow about supplier relationships and positive relationships and things like that. So I'm just going to say massive thanks to you. We're going to go into a break now. We are running a little bit behind. So if we can aim to come back after the break at 12:10. And thank you both so much. That was really, really interesting. Great to see you again. My COVID journey actually started in Edinburgh. I went to service design in Edinburgh, and from about the 4th of March onwards, I was locked down because someone had COVID at that event. I started early on lockdown, so that was interesting. But thank you so much, and hopefully I get to see you guys again in person. That'd be wonderful. And thanks a lot, and enjoy your break.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.